And welcome to the Daily Space Weather Show. If you wanted to take a closer look at the closest star and the weather in between here and there, well, we've got you covered. These are 24-hour videos at 30 frames per second from Solar Dynamics Observatory as we await some incoming space weather, a coronal mass ejection impact or two expected both tonight, but especially tomorrow night, Monday night into Sunday night into Monday. We are expecting to see some geomagnetic storm activity. We've also got new active regions rising in the east, and we're expecting sunspot number to uptick once again moving into tomorrow. We also have a steady and significant uptick in the 10.7 centimeter radial flux. Here are some of those newly rising and forming active regions. Also, a huge number of gigantic plasma filaments also pepper the Earth-facing side of the solar disk. You can see some of those showing up as dark absorption features here in this 24-hour video. Now then, let's take a look at some more solar imagery here. Here is SDO's. That's a sweet composite right there. It depicts 304, 171, and 211 angstroms. We are showing yesterday plus today at this point. That's April 12th and April 13th to date. And that earthly directed CME came from this active region right down here. You'll see a brightening there, the Hyder flare portion, as another portion of that solar plasma filament has ejected and is headed Earth's way. Now, as far as magma maturing into lava, well, that's still happening at the Reykjanes Peninsula, although the eruption there continues to simmer down. So it is really only that main cinder cone there that's still affecting things. There are still volcanic ash, volcanic gas warnings in those areas and so forth. So if you are in the Iceland Reykjanes Peninsula region, take heed. There is still a possibility of some outgassing, and it could be dangerous. Abico is also erupting. Ibu is also erupting in an explosive fashion. Dacono exploding. Sanchiquito and Fuego, both in Guatemala there. Nevado de Ruiz. Sangay, Revenador, Sabancaya, and Erta Ale looks like it may erupt again as there is magma moving toward the fissure. As far as earthquakes go, there are the past 90 days, and here are what's going on for the past 24 hours. We'll call quakes of a 5 and greater magnitude. And I think the largest one of the past 24 was made in Chile. Western Zhejiang. Zhejiang? I don't know. However it's said. 5.5 magnitude quake there, a 5.2 at Indonesia. Less than an hour later, a 5.0 at the Indian Ridge there. Southern Indian Ocean. Tonga had a 5.3. That was at 10:47 Universal Time this morning. So an active morning. Western Indian Antarctic Ridge, another quake there south of Australia. Also Indonesia had a 5.3. And that is that. And here's some more solar imagery for you. How about, there's 304 angstroms for the past 24 hours. Again, large number of large plasma filaments once again hanging out on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. And before we get to coronal holes, let's take a look at things like the 10.7 centimeter radial flux. It is now up to 161 solar flux units. 161 is the 10.7 centimeter radial flux. There it is in the past year, depicted by the black line. As we get closer and closer, still about 6 months out from solar maximum, but as we get closer and closer, you can expect to see higher and higher sunspot numbers and radial flux numbers. Here's our NOAA forecast, and as you can see, some Geomagnetic storm conditions expected starting about midday tomorrow and then into the night. So again, Sunday night into Monday morning, expecting some geomagnetic storm conditions. So aurora chasers, be aware of that. There is our NOAA-Enlil spiral. And the ESA is forecasting this to arrive a little bit later. That's the European Space Agency. So it looks like NOAA's forecasting the high-speed portion of the next coronal hole high-speed stream to show up around the same time as that coronal mass ejection. At least that's what it said on the NOAA site, the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. So here is ESA's Enlil spiral. And again, ESA is forecasting that CME impact to be a little bit slower than the NOAA forecast, so it's expected to arrive a little bit later. But pretty similar forecast there. A lot of CMEs popping off. Only really one is properly earthly directed. Next, the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space, and it is calm conditions out there. Calm conditions in the Earth space zone. So that depicts about 12 Earth diameters. The units here are magnetohydrodynamic pressure. It's the space weather modeling framework. And if you want to read about it, just click on the details tab on the Geospace Magnetosphere Movies page, and you'll get a link to the space weather modeling framework, which will show you all the variables used. Things like the electron flux, the magnetic fields, the solar wind density and velocity, and so forth. Here are the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground level. Again, we are seeing geomagnetically calm conditions. So no CME or coronal hole high-speed stream impacts as of yet. KP index is at 0.67. So if you're not familiar with the KP index, the planetary K index, as it's called here, it is an average of global geomagnetism. And a KP1 or a KP 0.67 is quite calm. Next, the ACE, located at Lagrangian point 1, about 1 million miles in between Earth and Sun. Solar wind speed there very slow at 350 kilometers a second, and kind of diffuse at less than 2 protons per cubic centimeter. At the Discover, seeing a little signal maybe emerging here, so that could be the arrival of a CME impact. At the moment, still quite diffuse though. Only 1 proton per cubic centimeter. Solar wind velocity here even slower than at ACE, only under 330 kilometers per second, so very slow and quite diffuse for now. GOES magnetometers are smooth. What can I say? No space weather storms have been showing up, so no major variations happening in the GOES geosynchronous near equatorial orbiting satellites. Next, the magnetic sector remains turbulent here, folks. So although Earth is remaining in a South Pole-oriented magnetic sector, that could change suddenly with what we're seeing. Mainly what's going on in the southeastern limb, in my opinion. But there you go. So Earth does remain, as forecasted 2 days ago, in a South Pole-oriented magnetic sector here shown in red. Here's a lot of information all at once. The line of sight field plot. Photosphere magnetism in grayscale, the B field in blue, polar fields in green and red for north and south respectively. So we could see the magnetic sector change polarity here suddenly, but at the moment, South Pole magnetic sector. And we've got South Pole-oriented coronal holes here rotating in, also as forecast about 2 days ago. So that's what's been going on. And let's get to coronal holes from the SDO's perspective. So there are the past 48 hours of the 211 angstroms wavelength, the optimal wavelength to view coronal holes. And of course you can see that CME as well popping off yesterday. Again, it's a 48-hour video from Solar Dynamics Observatory. Sunspot number here is now back up to 122. 122 sunspots, according to Royal Observatory Belgium. Likelihood of large flares is mainly on that eastern limb, although there is a little bit of magnetic complexity with sunspot 3634. We also have sunspots getting close to the limb there in the west. Again, the most likely place would be in the east, which would be on this side here, your screen left. So we're not sure the extent of those new rising active regions, but we do know that sunspots close to the limb are the most likely to produce large flares. So these are just basic facts. And let's take a look at sunspots here from SDO. There's the solar magnetogram, and things have been stable here. So we are expecting an uptick in sunspot number because of new sunspots rising and forming in the east. There will be no sunspots setting by tomorrow's daily space weather video. So again, expecting to see an uptick in sunspot number, low the next 24 hours. There's the continuum. We showed you the magnetogram. A little bit of growth in that far north group. But again, things mostly stable here. And next we'll get into things like energetic particles and solar flares. So as far as energetic particles go, we ain't got none. The ghost proton flux remains at baseline levels. And as far as X-rays go, we're now at a C-class background level once again. We have had one M-class intensification in the past 24 hours. It was only about an M2.5, an M2.5 approximately solar flare there. And how about flares from the perspective of SDO? Once again, there is a 24-hour, 30 frames per second, 94 angstroms video. And all that brightening in the east, it is increasing the likelihood of a large solar flare. And indeed, likely increasing the X-ray flux. It'll also be increasing the sunspot number moving into tomorrow. We'll see more new name groups. Then we see degraded groups or setting groups. We'll see zero group setting, and so far, no degradation over the past 24 hours. It's a building, once again, of higher and higher sunspot numbers. We also like to include 131 angstroms. And before we get on to things like coronal mass ejections, let's take a brief moment to chill and see what's going on overhead for Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And before we even do that, take a moment to press the like button if you enjoy the Smash News Network least busted name in news. Our views have been even more pathetic than usual on YouTube. Why? No discernible reason. Are we doing anything different? Well, absolutely not. Have you been unable to see the content in your subscription feed? Definitely let us know in the comments. Now, if you want to see when the videos go up, they usually go up every night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, so that's pretty easy to figure out. And then we usually release a series of shorts after that for people with attention spans less than 1 minute. But again, if you enjoy the content, press the like button. Help us out by pressing the share button. Visit us on social media. Leave a comment. And if you're mad about what we're saying about solar activity, then by all means, let us know, as we encourage rage comments here at the Smash News Network, least busted name of news, where we only get in trouble for telling the truth. And to quote Run DMC, we always tell the truth, and then we never slip no lies in. Solar System Forecast is next. That's where things lie today, and some channels that cover space weather just lie through their teeth. That's where things will be in 1 week on April 20th, which is Schicklgruber's birthday. Yes, Schicklgruber's birthday. I don't know why people are so excited about it, celebrating the date of 420. Now, if you're up in the morning before sunrise, you might be able to see Venus, the third brightest object. That's what's going on overhead right now, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Our star chart from skyandtelescope.org. And it's time for CMEs, but first, the astronomy photo of the day. It's a partial solar eclipse there through palm trees, located in Clearwater, Florida. So, great partial eclipse there. And here are coronal mass ejections for the day. And things have been pretty chill here. So, little bit of activity there Is it earthly directed? Well, so far, we don't think so. But we'll look at some more data here. Let me bring back the C2 first. So there is some event happening there around early this morning, showing up around 5 o'clock. That's kind of the main thing that seems to be an outflow and an initial ejection. Pretty minor, though. We'll also look at stereo A, which is located where that red dot is there. As it gains on Earth, it does orbit a little bit closer to the sun, and it is accelerating away, giving us better and better angular views of CME activity. And as far as that one from this morning, looks like it is off to the east there, so not likely to be earthly directed. We'll take a look at our custom coronagraphs next. So here you go. That's all right. There's SDO synced with LASCO C2 and C3. And we'll move in one step closer and add 193 angstroms, 60-minute running difference. And indeed, that event was from down here in the southeast, so not likely to have any earthly directed components. And if you disagree, let us know in the comments. As we await coronal mass ejection impacts. There's a little closer view before we get to filaments. Again, right at the beginning of the video there, that CME pops off from the lower left. Not likely to be earthly directed, no indications that it is. And again, we're moving to filaments. Great view there of filaments. Once again, that's 304 angstroms plus 193 angstroms, 60-minute running difference. 24-hour video at 30 frames per second from Solar Dynamics Observatory. So that ain't half bad, right? Pretty good, in fact. Let's move to filaments next. That's what's going on. For filaments, that's from Cerro Tololo's ground-based solar observatory. Filaments. They are suspended by magnetic fields, allowing big chunks of solar plasma to defy gravity and be suspended tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of kilometers above the solar surface. This shows a little bit more contrast, although it doesn't show prominences like you can see down there in the southeast, your lower left, or the southwest, your lower right. This does show better views of the filaments that are overlapping the solar disk. And that is a lot of filaments. The likelihood of coronal mass ejections in the next 24 hours is just this side of 100%. So expect to see some CMEs in the coming 24 hours, especially likely out of the eastern limb there, where we've got those multiple new active regions rising. And if you want to name filaments after living people, join us over at twitter.com/smashomash. Yes, I shared Tamitha Scove's forecast, and there is a whole space weather community kind of over there, and sometimes we even see each other's tweets. So it's great when we see stuff besides political crap and other nonsense in our subscription feeds. And before we get to bonus features, here are the past couple of hours from the GOES 16. Again, huge filaments, including this arch-shaped one right up here in the northeast. That one's certainly worthy of a name. Follow the hashtag #NameThatFilament. Name filaments after your friends, your foes, or even yourself. Here come bonus features, starting with charging hazards, and we ain't got none. GOES electron flux here in a modest range, a normal operating range for the GOES electron flux. there it is contextualized over the past year, and it's just at, like I said, nominal levels. Nothing remarkable there. Here is NOAA's forecast expecting a dip in the electron flux, and I tend to agree, as there are both a CME and a possible coronal hole high-speed stream coming. So yes, I would agree. Expect to see a dip in the electron flux. It's measured at the F layer. Feel free to pause the video on this frame. The F layer is at about 300 kilometers of altitude. And here it is in vibrational frequency. Quite a bit of high frequency anomaly there. I can tell right away. If you're not used to looking at this, don't worry. We'll show the anomalygram as well. So lots of 14 megahertz zones there in the ionosphere. And here you'll see quite a bit of blue showing up. That's anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. High frequency is blue, low frequency is red. We'll also show the global ionosphere nowcast, because we want to depict the total electron content and the maximum usable frequency for all of you GPS and high-frequency radio operators. So we'll let that one play through for you. And before we get to meteorology, we'll show the latest high-res images. And check out these new active regions. So there is at least one new sunspot group that's not named yet. Again, expecting another modest uptick in sunspot number going into tomorrow. So that one up there in the northeast is not named. That's actually going to be at least two new groups there. And yeah, so those are going to be the most likely places moving forward for large solar flares. Here's the full disk rock back for you. I think that might be a new sunspot group as well. So anyway, it's time to move on to meteorology. Starting with the world's stormiest seas. So the seas are actually kind of calm right now, but the stormiest place in the world is in between Australia and Antarctica. The Southern Ocean, where it's autumn, has the biggest waves. About 34 footers down there in an isolated zone. Besides that, things are pretty calm on the, quote, 7 seas, end quote. Anyway, these are the surface winds of the eastern world, and like sands through the hourglass of time, these are the jet streams of our lives. These are the jet streams of the central world. Surface winds are next. Western world. And the jet streams from over here. Next, satellite imagery. We've got hurricane force winds in the Atlantic Ocean, and 50-mile-per-hour winds spreading across Pennsylvania and some other mid-Atlantic states. We'll get to it. That's the visible satellite. As darkness falls across the Atlantic, don't be frantic and find yourself in a panic by believing nonsense about space and Earth weather. Those are facts. As a low hangs out once again off the coast of San Francisco. So here is our wind accumulation. Look at that, 75-mile-per-hour winds in the Atlantic. And moving over here to Pennsylvania, 50-mile-per-hour winds as cold, dry, massive air blows in from Canada. That high-pressure air, it just straight up blows. And if you're on a bike, you might find yourself taking flight. Next to our weather.gov map. Weather.gov is where to get your weather warnings. We'll scroll up and show you the map, and then scroll down and show you the key, and then scroll back up and show you the map, just in case you weren't paying attention. But heavy winds are currently striking Pennsylvania. And here come some forecasts, starting with the GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation. So that low off the coast of California is just going to slide right down the coast and then disintegrate. but not before it brings more snow and rain. And we've also got temperature anomaly forecast. That's temperature anomaly in degrees Celsius based on the 72-hour GFS model. 72-hour GFS model. We show 3-day forecasts because they're accurate. And of course, if we did have to forecast very minute areas, we could provide extremely accurate and detailed forecasts. However, keep in mind, we do have a viewing range like every meteorologist. And that's usually what makes people mad. It's not because they're wrong. It's because they're forecasting for a certain area. And, if there's a mountain range in that area, you might have completely different weather on one side and the other of the mountain, especially if it's an east-west ridge. If it's an east and west ridge, you've got a north and south demarcation line there that regularly stretches across the ridge of the mountain. But some high temperatures there in the middle of the country, especially seeing temperatures here as high as 16 degrees Celsius above normal. And warmer temperatures coming back to the mid-Atlantic states, and we'll take it. Next, lightning. That's what's going on for lightning for the past 10 hours. And here is a real-time lightning map from lightningmaps.org. And it's actually pretty calm here. Not a lot of lightning strikes, only 45 strikes per minute. We do have some lightning here around Bermuda. Next, Doppler radar. It looks like some snow is falling in parts of Canada. Here is our lower 48 view. Here is our satellite view. And there is our water vapor map. So a string of dry air there spreading all the way from San Diego to New Jersey at the moment. Really, it is 2 air masses, but here's your recap. U.S. Doppler radar, depicting vertical motion in the air column based on ground-based Doppler radar systems, space-based visible satellite, and the water vapor map, which clears things up if you know how to read it. So, hopefully you know how to read it. And hopefully, you didn't heed it. And when I say it, I mean terribly idiotic forecasts about space weather. So, anyway, see you next time. In the meantime, I'll have been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And may that solar wind be at your back. Time to use the S-bars, the swamp-based acceleration reduction system. In the bunker. Whoa!